Welcome to our webinar on mastering the Ranorex Automation Helpers. My name is Jackie King, and I will be moderating today's session. And with me is Josh Owen.
Hello, Jackie. Hello, everyone.
Josh is going to be doing the live demonstration portion of our webinar today. And this webinar is being recorded so that you can watch it again later, or you can share it with others on your team.
So today we'll do a quick overview of what the helpers are, and we're going to demonstrate three of them here: a report to PDF, the email notification, and Popup Watcher. So without further delay, let me go ahead and clear the slideshow, and we will jump into Ranorex. I've prepared a short test here that will help us demonstrate these. What this test does, we run our simple demo application. We do the hello world type test here, reset, and then close that demo app. So first off, automation helpers it's an open source group of tools, and those tools include different code modules and code methods, user code methods, that are pre-built and available for you to exercise these different actions without having to code them yourselves. I mentioned it's open source, so you can find us there on GitHub and provide any additional code or insights that you might wish to. What we're going over today are primarily designed for those who are not coding, but can take advantage of these things. So first off, in my solution, I'm going to come up here and right-click, and we'll see Ranorex Automation Helpers right here in the menu. Now, very easy to add. We'll just add our automation helpers. Gives us a brief overview of what this does, and it's going to add in some files to our project. So we'll click Add. And now you'll see that the automation helpers have been successfully added. In the Project Explorer over here, you see a different project now with the different pieces available. In the module browser is especially important, as our three modules here. We have this collect retry error messages. We have the email and report to PDF. Both of those I'll be going over today. Now, ultimately, the automation helpers are just a NuGet package. And so for anyone more experienced with development, you can right-click on the project and just go to Manage Packages. So essentially what we're seeing here is the automation helpers is a NuGet package just installed, but you can extend these projects with anything out there available in NuGet. All right, to first jump in, let's start off with the report to PDF model. To do so, I'm just going to take our report to PDF module and we're going to bring it into our test suite. Now, since we're going to run this as a test suite, I'm going to first add a teardown to the test suite level so that I can put our report to PDF in our teardown. You'll notice there's 5 unbound variables in here. I will go over those, but we do not need to populate them to get this to work. When we right-click up here on our global parameters, we can auto-create these, so we don't have to type in those things manually. Now, they're not bound to any module variables. I can provide the values here. But what you're seeing is you have the opportunity to give this a unique name to the PDF report, as well as a directory. We have a spot for custom XML templates. So if you wanted to change the style, kind of like our custom reporting, you can add the XML style sheet here. Details is the amount of detail you want in your report. That's automatically going to default to full, but other values are none and failed only. And then finally, we have the delete Ranorex report. So with the PDF being generated, you can remove the standard Ranorex report once this is run. We'll go ahead and leave these null. I'll click OK. And let's run this simple test. That way you also get a feel for what the test is doing and how we're going to continue to extend it here. So click Run. This should only take about 30 seconds or so. Quick little test. We have our first entry. We do 3 of these in our data source. And the reason we did 3 here, we're going to find that I've slowed this test down even a little bit more when we get to the Popup Watcher. So our test has completed. We have a warning here for the unbound variables. Nothing to fear. You know, there's nothing wrong with this. We're just using it in this way. And so after our test, you have the welcome test. We've run through all of that, but now we have after test suite, as we've included the PDF report here. And we do get a link directly to that. So I can click that and it will open or download the report. My plugin here in IE is not the best, so let me show you where that gets created. I'm going to right click on the project and we're going to open the output folder. Go to meeting has covered it. Here we go. So in our output folder, you see our standard reports in here, the RX log and RX log data. But now we have this webinar PDF. So we can open up our PDF. We get a nice breakdown, and very similar to what you see in Ranorex. When we click on this, it will take us right there to the spot that the table of contents references. And just scrolling through, we have all of the details. So we get our screenshots in here. We have all of the test detail. And once again, you can't control what's being displayed in this, like failures only, for example. And it's really as easy as that for the PDF. Now, PDF by itself can be useful for saving onto disk or saving an artifact in your CI. But I think the email module is really the most beneficial. Before we move on to that, let me go ahead and show real quick. We have a blog entry that's it's a little bit older. It's from back in 2015, but still does apply to all of this. We're currently working on updating the Ranorex help to include more about these modules. But one thing you may or may not find interesting here is we can convert existing reports. So if it's something after the fact that you're doing your normal test runs and you hadn't had this set up, but do want to present a PDF to maybe management or so forth, you can use our tool here. And I'll put this link in the chat as we get closer to the end of our presentation. All right, so that's our report to PDF. Now, very similar is the email module. I'll drag this one out here. And we have quite a few more variables here. So when I look at these variables, let's go ahead and auto-create those as well, global parameters. Oh, you know what? I want to use a data source, so I'm going to throw this in its own teardown. We will email at the end of this particular test case is what I will do. And so we'll right click, we'll look at data binding, show you these variables. So we have a number of setup items. You start with the basic email setup. You've got your subject, your body, to, from, email server information here, your host name and port, username, password. And then here are the other settings of interest. So we can tell this to send the email on failure only, on success only. We can have it provide a compressed copy of the Ranorex report, or we can have this also provide a PDF copy. And then here is the last, that PDF custom style sheets like we saw in report to PDF. Now I'm not actually going to use them here. What I've done, so I didn't have to show all my server setup, is to create this as a data source. To do so, I'm going to come up here to my test case and do a data source real quick. So email source. And we need to go to my demo folder and grab my email configuration. As I mentioned, a data source here is not required. I'm just doing this so I can show you without displaying my email server credentials and my username and password here. So we'll click OK. We'll see the data come in real quick. And what I'm going to do now is just auto bind those variables. So we've automatically created them, and we can auto bind as well. So we'll apply this, click OK, and now we can go ahead and look for another run. So it's still going to create the local PDF, and I will be able to show you the email as well. Once the test is run, again, we get this after test suite. We have our teardown here where the report to PDF module was executed. While that email comes in, let me go ahead and navigate here to this template. Let's see. Here we go. So that config file that I use as a data source looks something like this. I just simply put the headers, the same names as the variables that are needed, and then filled out my data in a single row. So we're not looking for any type of looping here. It was just one way to get these values into Ranorex without entering them there on screen. But you can certainly manually key those in. All right. So at this point, we should double check and see here. Let me see if my email has gone out. And we'll open this up. So it's from me to me, testing Ranorex Automation Helpers. Here I've attached the regular Ranorex log, the compressed log file. We also have a PDF copy, and that has my sum subject out here in the body. So that one I really like because you can get those notifications, especially just on failure, right? So when you're running a production test, maybe before release or anything like that, even if you have meetings and aren't sitting there kind of watching things, you'll get a good notification. All right, moving on. So this, these modules, very easy to use. What we're going to turn to now is looking at user code methods. And the methods that I'm going to show is all about the Popup Watcher today. But as you're going to see, there's a number of code methods in there that are useful. To help me with this test, I'm actually going to remove our welcome test, and I'm going to bring in this other module. I've slowed this way down so that we have a chance to see some pop-ups in here. So we'll go ahead and grab that data binding for name. All right, so make sure my data works correctly. And now on to Popup Watcher. I created two different modules here. We'll look at Run Popup Generator. And I have a small application just kind of custom built here on the side that generates pop-ups. And so this will initiate our pop-ups, but it doesn't actually solve them yet. Let's go ahead and get those included in our test. I'll add a setup area here. So where we run the pop-up generator, that will start everything. We also want to stop or close that pop-up generator. We'll throw that here in the teardown. Now, this thing is going to generate pop-ups about every 15 seconds or so. And while my test is running, I need those to be handled. So I'm going to jump into the Run RX demo, where we're launching our application under test. I'm going to right-click, add a new action, and we're going to come down here to our library of user code methods. And with Automation Helpers, we've got a number of things in this list. can briefly kind of walk through this, but we've got some helpers in here for the drag and drop. Rather than using the click mouse button, the down mouse, move, up mouse, we have email where you can send custom emails. In the file library, this is can be particularly useful as well for checking for file existence, right? Here we come to our Popup Watcher category, which we're going to go into detail on this one. Just the last few categories here with the string library, get random and concat, the system library, kill process. Another really good helper here is to start and stop a timer. So you could time a particular process. Finally, our validation and web libraries. So all of these methods are out there and can be used, open source. We are also always looking for new things. So at the end of this webinar, we will post a quick survey, just looking for some input about what might be useful out here. But if you've written something special, you are certainly welcome to share that with us, and we can add that into these libraries that we maintain. So going into Popup Watcher. So the first thing with Popup Watcher is we can start a Popup Watcher, and what that Popup Watcher class does is it looks for an element to exist. If it finds that element, when that element does exist, it will execute a callback as to do something. And in this case, this easy stop-up Popup Watcher here is what we want to look for, and then what to do, i.e. click the OK button or click the continue button. We also have the stop Popup Watchers, as you may not want to continue those throughout the whole test. Sometimes you may only have that for a particular module or for several steps. So you can stop those at any time. They will automatically kind of end as the test ends. So stop all of them or stop a particular one, because you may have multiple Popup Watchers looking for different elements. And then lastly, I think this pause while exists, this can be very handy in diagnosing some failures or as you're building tests. So this actually waits, it pauses the execution and waits for you to clear basically that element. So let's start off with the simple one. We're just going to do a start Popup Watcher. And here we see the element to look for and the element that it needs to click on. My pop-up generator here, you can see a little preview. This is what the app's going to look like, but it's going to give us a demo pop-up that looks like this. So we can take that screen and we can say, okay, find and look for that element. And then the click element is the action to do if or when this occurs. And so we can take the OK button, map that here to click element. And now we've started our Popup Watcher. Later on in the test, as I mentioned, when we close the pop-up generator, maybe that's a good spot, or our close application, we can then stop the Popup Watcher. So we'll use another library method here. And we're going to stop all. I don't have to give it anything, provide any parameters. To stop that one specifically, I'd provide the same two elements here. So we'll go ahead and stop all. We'll save this, and we can give this a test run. We'll come back out into our test suite and kick this off. So same basic test. It will run a little slower just to see these pop-ups. Gosh, I wanted to clear the screen a little bit so that you guys could see clearly. But our pop-up generator, you see just in the top left of our test application, it's running. Very slow movement here. And there's a pop-up, so it clicks OK, and then it continues on. The Popup Watcher class is available in your standard Ranorex project without adding the helpers. The helpers just make it easy to implement there in the action table. So again, for the non-coders, you can utilize that. If you were to code on the Popup Watcher, then you have the ability to use a watch and click method like we're doing here, or you could do a watch and callback and provide your own method. So the test suite's still running here. It's sending our email out, creating that PDF, and here we go. So in our welcome test, we can break this down a little bit. We have one little warning out here. Here is our pop-up. That's what the problem was, our pop-up here. We found the pop-up, we closed it, and then down in teardown, we have our email and our closed pop-up generator. So still after the test suite, we did our PDF creation and the email. But now you can kind of get a feel for what the Popup Watcher does. We can go back over here and we can use the wait for. We use a little bit different one. So pause while exists. We'll just go ahead and comment this one out, and we'll still use our demo pop-up. Let me see here if I can't clear the screen when we get it running. To do so, actually, I'll just go ahead and throw in another delay. Give me a second to clear some things out. So we went to delay. Yeah, just a second's fine here. All right, back to our test suite, and we'll kick this off. All right, it was in the move to submit. Now it's waiting for me again. Waits again. If it's in the middle of a step, it can get a little tricky. This is where the code method I mentioned, we can look at that real quick after, is a little bit better in some ways where you can control exactly what it's doing rather than just the click. Because the clicks, when I slowed everything down, you know, if it's in the middle of something, it doesn't necessarily click. But if you're not testing the pop-up and you're attempting to, you know, you're working around a pop-up, then you might consider some actions like invoke method, as that's more instant, right? You're using a button press, and so that could be a little faster here. All right, now we're finally at the end of this. Okay, and we still have our pop-up. There we go. And now it's going to do its reporting. So still sending the email. And then, of course, this will pop up here when it's completed with the after test suite results. There we go. So now we have the completed test while it was handling pop-ups. So let's look now at a little bit deeper into the Popup Watcher. So come in here and we can take a look at the Start Popup Watcher code. So again, if you're not into coding or don't have much experience there, don't let this frighten you. You know, that's why the pre-built methods are there. But we get a view into, so we create a new Popup Watcher, and this is using a watch and click method. There's also the Watcher watch. And in this method, when we take a look here at our help, we get a pop-up item callback. So you're essentially calling another method to handle whatever this thing has found. And that can be, that's the one that I found in timing, in crazy timing scenarios, a little bit more reliable than the watch and click because it's just using that same mouse movement here. You've also noticed probably that I'm in the Popup Watcher library, and I was able to modify this. As mentioned, you know, these are open source libraries and files so you can modify these. Just be wary that whenever the project or Ranorex updates, that this stuff could get overwritten if you're in the libraries that are provided through that NuGet package. But if you find something that's worthwhile adding in here or have some ideas, we would love to hear those. All right. We have been able to go through our PDF, our email module, and the Popup Watcher selections here. Let me pop back to my presentation, and we'll cover, just in summary, we talked a little bit about what those automation helpers are, where you can get them by right-clicking, and it's also basically a NuGet package. For those that are interested, you can find the Ranorex GitHub repository online. We got to see report to PDF, the email notification, and Popup Watcher. And of course, all feedback and requests are appreciated. So always looking for new ideas out there on these things. They're not really developed by our development staff that is always working on Ranorex, of course. A lot of these come from your ideas, myself, or other engineers in our support team. Some other resources out here. We have a lot of other webinars growing our library of on-demand webinars, so please check those out. You can find things like Jira integration and data-driven testing. We're always creating new articles and screencasts, just 2-3 minute videos on how to do some things as we continue to do these webinars. And then of course the blog. I will send that, actually let me do that now. I will send that blog link out so you guys can look into the report to PDF.
This was a fantastic demo, Josh. By the way, this is Mubin. Do you mind just one thing real quick? I meant to say it earlier and I forgot. Can you check the config file? I think Sam was asking if we could take a look at the config file in the project.
Yep. Well, so I'll finish this one slide here. But of course, you guys are going to get an email to download this video if you want to share this or revisit. And further questions, please follow up. My email will be shown here shortly. What we'll do right now is we'll take a look at the config file and then also address any other questions here in the questions panel or anything new that comes in. Let me go ahead and show my email just because I don't want to forget to do that. So you can contact me at jon@ranorex.com if you have any questions about this. And then finally, again, before I go into kind of open question mode, let me ask one more question here as a poll. And what we want to know, let's see, is do you think these are helpful or will be useful? So kick this off real quick. We'll give this about 10 seconds or so. All right, just a couple more seconds, a little longer here. We've got good response. Thank you all for responding. All right, very good. 80%. We'll go ahead and close this, and we can share these results. Can everybody see here? Looks like we had 84%. I think these are helpful, more of this, and at least a little bit. I'm happy that everybody has found at least something useful out of this today. So hide this back, and then we will go ahead and take a look here at Ranorex and the config file. So just to clarify, the config file that we're talking about, I thought that might be the email file that I used. What other config file are we interested in? Mubin, do you know?
Actually, no, it just says the question that Sam asked was, could you please show us the config file? So it could, well, we could look at both. We could look at the app config. There's really nothing in there that we need to do on our side, and then we can go back to looking at the email and just see how it was set up.
Mm-hmm. All right, I just posted a new link out there. And so the email setup here, I did that at a test case level. So I guess kind of reviewing this, we have all of our module variables. These are automatically in that email module. So we could, if we were not using a data source, we could have them down here as parameters and then just provide a hard-coded value in this area. That would no longer, require the data source. And let's pull up here, just again, this template. I mean, the template's fairly simple. If you do want a copy of that, please go ahead and email me. I'll be happy to send you the spreadsheet.
Okay, that's fantastic. When you're ready, Josh, there's one more question.
Yep, I'm absolutely ready.
Okay, fantastic. This is a question that Jameen was asking. Oh, I'm sorry, not Jameen, my apologies. Renuka, they were asking how to add a teardown folder.
Oh, certainly. Yep, let me go ahead and get rid of this one. So within any test case or in the test suite level, when you right click here, you can add setup and teardown. So I'm just right clicking, add that teardown. And I like to use these as organizational pieces because it does give you these collapsible areas. But again, like the email and the reporting thing, the report to PDF, you're doing that really at a test suite level. So doing that in a master teardown allows you to keep those just running one time. Hope that answers your question?
I think it does. It answered my question. I understood perfectly. Yes, it does. Thank you very much, Veronica. One more question. This one I answered, but I may not know it correctly. We can just certainly bounce it off you as well. It was asked twice, once by Chris and once by Henry. And the question is, with the PDF, is there a way to capture the auxiliary file? So when on our normal report, when we click on the thumbnail, it gives us a larger image. Is that something we can add to the PDF?
Oh, I see. I do not believe so.
Right.
I don't think we can extend those images. So take a look here. Yeah, as you likely know, so in the Ranorex report, when we're doing this, way down in here somewhere is my screenshot, right? So you can blow that up here. But when the report is or the PDF report is generated, it's no longer an HTML type format where we can reference an image like this. Let's go ahead and, my IE is going to open again. Let me use the PDF viewer. And so the question is, can we blow these screenshots up? And I do not know of a way to do that. We can try something as simple as this. I'll just copy it out and put it in. So it looks like it's, it's definitely lost some quality being scaled like that, but the full image is in there. I think maybe with someone who has a little more knowledge of Adobe and PDF Reader may have a better answer for you. The only other thing I could suggest from the Ranorex side of things is that, I grabbed a screenshot of the whole app here, but what you could do instead would be in our screenshot piece. So we're taking a screenshot of the whole application. If I'm really just interested in that, the label, right, what we're validating, I could specify that in particular so that it's a much more focused screenshot, and that will at least give me a little more room on the report than trying to show a whole full screen.
Perfect. I found that.
Some more questions coming in here.
One real quick question, if you don't mind. That one has to do with I just lost my thing. Oh, here we go. The question is about the email. Can we combine PDF and email together? Sam is asking.
So you can use both of them. The email already has PDF built in. So when we look at that data binding, scrolling down here, there is the option to send the PDF report on completion. And so that's just a true false type option here. So you can, it's kind of combined already. And then of course you could run both modules if you wanted to save it somewhere and email it.
Perfect. Okay, I hope that answered their question. It made sense to me. We do have one more question Frank sent. He asked, what is the best way to add the automation helper to our projects?
I think the best way is to simply click on the solution folder and add automation helpers. This is straightforward, easy to do. You can find those files in GitHub, etc., but you'd kind of be piecing it together. I would just allow NuGet and Ranorex to take care of it by adding here. As soon as you run through this, you'll have that project show up with the user code modules like we see in our module browser. And you also get all of those code collections as we saw when right-clicking in the recording module.
Perfect. I know that also when you start Ranorex for the first time, in the project toolbar, there'll be a puzzle piece, if I'm correct, Josh. And in that's another way to add the automation helper. You have a one-time icon.
Up here.
Level. No, actually at the project level, you know where you had that folder that you just clicked? Right next to that folder, oh, it's gone now. You had a nice little folder in your toolbar up there, just above. There it is. Do you see that? Right next to it, to the right of it, there's a puzzle icon.
Yeah.
For automation helper, and it's one time. Once you click it, it'll disappear after you add the modules.
Yep, that's
if you open up.
way.
Yep, thank you. Perfect. Kirill had a nice question. He asked about the email. Exactly who sends the email? Is it Outlook, some internal email sender?
So the email that is used is actually what you provide. Back into the email settings here, we have a server, the port, and if you use SSL. And this actually, the type of server may dictate exactly if it requires a from email or not, but this is based on your email implementation there at the company. I have used this with Gmail before as well. So in any email site like Gmail, you can go into the settings and kind of find what these settings would be.
Perfect. One other question that Bert had, he missed it early on. How do you reference or get NuGet files added to your reference folder?
Help me understand that one again. How do you get the?
How do you use NuGet? I guess if you want to add, maybe off the web, get some DLLs.
Oh, okay, yeah. Certainly. I just always right-click the project, but under Manage Packages, this essentially is the little NuGet browser. So you can see all available and what we've installed, etc. Some very popular ones you see right here, like JSON.net for deserializing, serializing JSON. Entity Framework's good for working with data sources. If you search in here, for example, let's do like BDD is SpecFlow. So we can type SpecFlow, we'll find all the integrations with SpecFlow, and then obviously if you type Ranorex, you'll find the automation helpers, Jira, Applitools, there's PDF, just standalone. So NeoLoad, integrating with NeoLoad for performance testing. This is where you would install any of these packages.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Josh. And I think from when I'm looking at the panel now, there doesn't seem to be any more questions, but if there are, you're welcome to send them, and we'll go over it. Otherwise, I think Josh had his email presented. You're welcome to send Josh or myself
Yep, throw it up
emails.
here real quick.
Be happy to get to you that way as well.
Very good. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We're going to go ahead and wrap up our webinar now. Hope you have a great day. Goodbye.